I'm Robin Hoffman. I'm a public artist here in Charlottesville, but actually right now I'm in Greenland. Isn't this amazing? So Greenland is all the way up near the Arctic. Anyway, so today I'm going to try to paint like the cliffs before they disappear or whatever. You know, we have, as artists, we have to put our hats on so that you can see clearly, you know, what you're doing without all the sunlight and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so today I'm going to be trying to depict the wonderful landscape of Greenland. So Greenland is Danish. Like, you can't buy it. I mean, you can't even rent, you know, a space there because the Danish government decided that they're going to own everything. So it's kind of like you deciding, you know, you're going to go to one of the great parks that we have in the United States, and you're going to build, like, you know, a hotel. No, you can't do that because it's government owned or whatever it's called. It's preserved for green space, which is really important in terms of the biosphere and stuff like that. Okay. Oh, hey, Sean.
Good seeing you here. Good to see you.
This is crazy. Look at this. So I was just talking about how, you know, the climate and all this stuff that we have here in Greenland, and there you are. You just like appear.
Yeah.
So, well, this is really cool. I'm a painter, as you know.
Yeah.
And I've been to Canada. I've been to the Middle East. I've been to different types of topography, and I just appreciate so much nature. I mean, recently I did the Rivanna River. I studied that. I was like, what? I mean, I just can't believe there's so many colors. And what happens when you paint? Do you mind if I start to paint while I talk with you a little bit?
Yeah, please do.
So, as a painter, what I have to do is, and first of all my materials, they're repurposed. This was from a dumpster, and this is a piece of masonite they use for drawers or whatever it's called. But it's very important that also the paints are recyclable. So acrylic paint, you can actually pour it in the ground, and it's fine. It doesn't take up the space of the soil. It just absorbs. But also recycling it. So one of the things that I use also is I use a plastic top for pallet from usually a container, a plastic container or whatever it's called, that somebody used on a construction site, and they're going to just throw it away.
Right.
So, do you do things in your home or where you live and things like that to keep as much waste as possible from being a part of your everyday?
Yeah, so I'm not as artistic as you, and I don't do a lot of painting, but I did do a little bit of woodworking. I had some pallets I took apart and made into some decorations for my house. So I have a wine rack and another like pot holder that I got from reused material.
Cool. So now, you are by education. Are you a climatologist?
No, not a climatologist.
What's your?
I work a lot in the solar industry. So I look at a piece of land or a rooftop and figure out the most efficient way to lay out solar panels.
Do you have a specific title? Like, does it, like, if, because now with the industry the way it is, people are hired. You know, it's a profession.
Yeah.
So what do they say you are when you put out your resume?
Yeah, so I started 2 years ago as a PV photovoltaic installer. I was on the rooftops carrying the panels, but since then I've worked I started working more in the office and working behind a computer. So my title now is development engineer.
So what does that entail? Like if I was to go to school, what would I have to do?
Let's see. You can get a bachelor's or even a master's in renewable energy systems now.
Oh.
And even if you didn't want to go to college, there's some online classes where you take 2 online courses and you can get national accreditation to be a solar installer. And once you have that experience in the field, you can get promoted within. So there's a lot of different routes to get into the industry.
Oh, okay. So right now I'm doing something very unorthodox because what happened is when I packed my bag, since we're all the way up on this cliff,
Yeah.
I forgot my top for my container, which I
Okay.
usually hold as a pallet. So instead I have to improvise. Now, that's not uncommon for me because I will backpack into wooded areas sometimes and I'll forget my primary colors. Now, why do I talk about primary colors? Well, primary colors in nature, there's the beginning, your red, your yellow, and your blue. Those are usually what they call cadmium colors and ultramarine colors. And you can have some of your earth tones also, burnt sienna and stuff like that. But just using 3 colors plus white, you basically are able to make 32 million colors. Now, nature's colors, as you see the landscape here, you know, you can see that there is blues in the sky, and as I paint sometimes, I actually see time-lapse colors. Now, we have technology today. You can go into the sky with a time-lapse camera, and it shows all the colors that I see because I go really fast. Now, why do I have to go really fast? Because this is acrylic colors, and acrylic colors means that it will dry. So there's nothing you can do about what you put down once it's done, which is kind of fun. It makes it very creative. So if you can come over here.
Sure.
All right. So now what I do, okay, so I'm mixing my ultramarine blue, my cadmium yellow, and I use one brush, and I just go for it.
Okay.
You don't have to like, there's no, so if I had my palette, I would be better because I wouldn't be looking all the way down. I'd be looking like this. I'd be just mixing it. But anyway, as you can see, for when you look at the grass and stuff, what happens is the reason why it looks that way, the grass, the green, the darks or whatever, is because of the background. So you have to really start with the sky. And I always look at the sky and then I just kind of like put in these colors that I see real quick. And that will help me do the landscape. Believe it or not, if you don't have sky first, everything in the foreground's not going to make sense. So yeah, it's kind of like that. It looks, what is she doing? But really, it's going to all come together because if you look at the sky, and you see there's a lot of colors. But look at the ground as well, and you see their colors are very similar. They're based on the sky. So what do you know about the sky and the sun and all that solar stuff? Like in terms of how much sun do we need to like operate a TV set?
It all depends. So the sun, depending on where you are on the globe, it depends on how powerful the sun is. And if you're close to the equator and with high elevation, you can have a lot of solar irradiance, and that will, one solar panel can produce a lot more than if you were in Alaska in the wintertime. So there's a lot of things that depend on all different factors.
Lucas and Sadly, discovering energy.
Whoa! It's time I recharge my batteries, too. I've been busy while I was waiting for you, and I'm wiped. So, how was school?
Well, we did some divisions, but guess what? We mostly started to talk about energy. I thought about you. It's not that easy to explain this energy stuff.
You're right. The problem is that it's invisible, but at the same time, it's everywhere. Look. The wind, or even water, are raw sources of energy in nature. But there's also energy from muscles to cycle a bike. Or from heat, what we call thermal energy.
Like a fire for toasting marshmallows, for example.
Exactly. Ever since humans discovered fire, they've known how to domesticate energy to transform it. For a long time, fossil energy, like from oil, natural gas, and coal, was used a lot. But now there are more and more humans on Earth, so we need more and more energy. As a result, people today are developing renewable energy.
Yeah! In school, we were told about how renewable energy has lots of advantages. They don't pollute a lot, they don't emit lots of greenhouse gas that causes climate change, and they never run out, like solar energy.
That's it. Look, my photovoltaic solar panels transform light from sun into electricity. Awesome, right?
I know that solar energy is used for satellites in space and in secret on Earth, like you. But is solar energy used for other stuff, too?
Sure it is. But come on, we're taking off. I'll show you. It's better to see the real thing. And I'm fully in charge. We're good to go!
Wow! But if it's light that produces energy and not heat, can't we use photovoltaic solar panels everywhere, even in countries where it's not hot?
Of course. Solar panels can be even installed in cold countries. And when it's cloudy, light is still there. I charge a little slower, that's all. But at night, the sun doesn't shine. Batteries can be used, though. Electricity produced from the sun can be used to collect water in wells. Look. And it's the perfect solution for producing electricity in isolated places. You know, a country needs energy to develop. It's essential.
Charlotte told me that our calculators are solar powered. Do you think that's true?
Yes, there are more and more solar-powered objects. Lamps, calculators, clothing, even solar-powered transport has been invented. Look, there are already boats and this airplane that uses photovoltaics like me to fly around the world. It's the future for sure, but there is still work to be done. To increase battery capacity, to make more efficient and less expensive panels.
That's what I want to do when I grow up. Solar researcher.
Yeah, 2 days ago you wanted to be a mattress tester, and last week a superhero. Are you sure?
Sure, I'm sure. Anyone who helps develop solar energy is a superhero.
Okay, but if you want to be an expert in solar energy, maybe you should do your homework. You have a math quiz tomorrow, right? Divisions without a solar-powered calculator, remember?
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's go. I'm going to shine in math, and then we can play some soccer.
Okay, so for places, let's say in Germany, where there's a lot of clouds, or UK or whatever, do you find that they're using solar?
Yeah, Germany is one of the leaders of solar. They don't have the best solar resources, but they have a lot of people who want to get behind the solar. So they have a lot of policies in place where they installed a lot of solar for the past decade. And I think as we go in the future, people are going to be more supportive of this idea, and you're going to see it everywhere.
Huh. And so, how many years have you been looking at being a climate person? What were some of the incentives during your life that you decided to get involved with climate and all that?
Yeah, I've spent about a year and a half volunteering at different nonprofits. A lot of them were conservation-based out in the South Pacific, the Southwest America. So I did a lot of work in national parks and state parks, and that kind of gave me an interest in conservation and the outdoors. And when I found this opportunity to work in a business that was environmentally friendly, I was really, really happy with it. So that was about over 2 years ago. I've been working in solar, and I've seen even within the 2 years, just the growth of the company and just the industry and the excitement around it and the positive press. It's been great.
So now the thing is, just like any process, you know, like you're an accountant or you're a waiter or whatever you do, like as your experiences working with people, working with companies, working with states, and that sort of thing, and all the rules, do you feel like it's becoming a little more, just like when the fax machine started? So medical people wouldn't, you know, it was confidential. Now you can use fax. You can write on your computer and send it. You know, so you know, things are encrypted. I mean, people. It's a learning curve, right? Like people are learning as they go along, and so, I mean, I can tell you, as I've been an artist for all my life, been painting nature all my life. So I've had to go all the way to Canada to paint because I paint outdoors a lot of times. Yeah, and so it's gotten more and more darker and things like that. And so, so as I paint, I actually know some rules that nature has.
Okay.
And so what I'm doing right now, for instance, kind of looks for you just to notice. If you look at the landscape, some of the darks and some of the lights and things like that in nature, that shows definition. That's the definition of the rock formation and things like that. But it's also how the light hits things. And so it's really, for me, so much fun because I can be here in what's 20 minutes and do a painting. And the painting I can take home with me, right? I can't take Greenland home with me, and I feel like that's what people do too, that they want to take something with them, but I think what we have to do is protect it, right?
Definitely. I think when I was growing up, I always wanted a new toy or new clothes or everything new, and I was always bothering my parents for something new, but I really didn't need it. And I'm learning that as I get older that I could survive with a few things that I have. So I think just not to try to collect as much as possible, because if you have fewer things that are quality and last long, that's better in the long run.
Yeah, and so what happens to those things when you finish with them?
Yeah, so if you buy something that's cheap, that's gonna break, then it just ends up in a landfill. And if everyone of the 7.5 billion people on Earth did that, then there was too much garbage. So if people just had fewer things, that less things ended up in the landfill, then it would be less space to take up. And then we could have more green space for beautiful landscapes.
True. Now, one of the things that I do too is try to keep my impression, how do you say, unbiased, of my work. I mean, like what I'm doing. And so what the Impressionists did for many years, painters, is they just put down what they saw. And so right now what I do is, as a person who is painting, just to have something to have, how do you say, to have sort of a feeling of being there, right? So I'm not looking to depict something representationally, which means I'm not trying to make it look exactly like what I see. I want to feel like I'm here on this cliff, and the cliff is, of course, gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
And it has so many colors. I'm going crazy with the colors. And then and then I have to go because it's dry almost. And then I have to go because, you know, I have to go somewhere else. So I'm gonna just quickly finish this, and usually if I'm painting nature as it is, my one brush will have all my colors. I don't even have to, it just like, it's there. And it's so fun. So you don't have to like invent the colors as you go. If you start with the sky and all that, you're gonna get the colors you need to be able to do your whole painting. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're gonna do it next time?
Yeah. I'll try again, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna ask you to come next time then.
Okay.
All right.
Can't wait to come back to Greenland.
Yes.
Yeah.
Iceland and Greenland. Both are countries. Well, Greenland is not exactly its own country. It's part of the Kingdom of Denmark, considered a self-governing constituent country. So it's almost a country? Kind of a country? Well, most of the people who live there are not Danish. They are Inuit. Iceland is a country. Wait a second, let me double check. Hey, Iceland, are you a country?
Oh, yeah?
That's what I thought. Both are way north. In fact, north of 60 degrees north of the Earth's equator. So in the winter, they have little sunlight, but in the summer, the sun doesn't seem to ever go down. The Vikings, or more accurately, the Norsemen, were the first European settlers of both Iceland and Greenland, reaching the two places hundreds of years before Columbus sailed west. However, Greenland was first settled by various Inuit tribes thousands of years before European arrival. The Norsemen were the first settlers of Iceland, arriving around the year 870. So Iceland is one of the most recent islands ever settled by humans. Islands? Yeah, both Iceland and Greenland are islands. Greenland is the largest island in the world. Wait, it's not that big. Stupid Mercator projection. Both have hardly any people. Iceland has a population of around 350,000, while Greenland has a population of around 57,000, despite being about 21 times bigger than Iceland. There are more people in the city of Omaha, Nebraska than both Iceland and Greenland combined. Both have hardly any native species of plants and animals. There are absolutely no native reptiles or amphibians on the two islands. Get this. Greenland has mosquitoes that can be pretty relentless in the summer, especially since it's been getting warmer there. But Iceland? Nope. Iceland apparently has no mosquitoes. Most residents of both are concentrated in one single city. More than half of Icelanders live in or around Reykjavik, Iceland's largest city, and about a third of Greenlanders live in Nuuk, Greenland's largest city. The biggest religion in both countries is Christianity, specifically having ties with Lutheranism. The Church of Denmark dominates in Greenland, and the Church of Iceland dominates in, Iceland. But really, Iceland is much less religious than Greenland. It's a very secular country, and church attendance tends to be low there. Both are more politically and culturally aligned with Europe than North America. Despite the fact that Greenland is part of North America, both have a parliamentary system of government. As I mentioned earlier, Greenland is technically still part of the Kingdom of Denmark, but it governs itself. Denmark only still controls Greenland's defense and foreign relations. Both have economies that revolve around fishing and fish processing and the metals. Not heavy metal. No, not that kind of metal. Like metals, yes, that kind of metal. Greenland, however, is heavily dependent on Denmark in terms of investment dollars. Tourism is much bigger in Iceland than Greenland. Both are members of NATO. Both are not members of the European Union. Well, Denmark is, so Greenland is closely linked to it. Both Iceland and Greenland have universal health care. Based solely on the names of the two, it may seem that Iceland and Greenland are two very different places, and yep, they mostly are. First of all, why is Iceland called Iceland and Greenland called Greenland anyway? Well, according to the Landnámabók, aka the Book of Settlements, a Viking named Floki Vilgerdursson named it that after experiencing some bad luck on the island due to cold weather. Erik the Red gave Greenland its name after he settled there in 982 after getting kicked out of Iceland for killing a dude. latitude. Erik and his fellow Norsemen called it Greenland, partly because it was a bit warmer there back then, meaning the area where they settled actually was green, but also because they wanted to attract new settlers to the area. So yeah, you could argue it was a bit of a marketing scheme. While both Iceland and Greenland have permanent ice caps, Greenland has a lot more ice than Iceland. Iceland's covered in 11% of permanent ice, whereas Greenland's covered in about 80% of it. Due to warmer sea temperatures around Iceland, it has more moderate temperatures than Greenland. It gets warmer in the summer in Iceland and colder in the winter in Greenland. So yeah, Iceland is more green than Greenland, and Greenland is more icy than Iceland. Confused yet? Most Icelanders are descendants of Norse and Gaelic settlers, and their culture reflects that. Most Greenlanders are Inuit. Get this, Icelandic is the official language of Iceland, and Greenlandic is the official language of Greenland. That just makes sense, man. By many standards of living accounts, Iceland comes out ahead versus Greenland. Iceland is wealthier. It has a GDP per capita of $48,100, while Greenland has a GDP per capita of $37,900. Iceland has the 7th most productive economy in the world. It also has one of the lowest rates of income inequality in the world. The average lifespan in Iceland, which is among the highest in the world, is 83 years, whereas it's just 73 in Greenland. In Iceland, the unemployment rate is just 2.8%. It's 9.1% in Greenland. Babies born in Iceland are around 77% less likely to die in infancy than babies born in Greenland. Iceland has a much more developed internet presence than Greenland. And no offense, Greenland, but both Iceland's music scenes and film contributions are much more world-renowned than Greenland's. Iceland uses a heck of a lot more energy than Greenland, but it's fairly cheap due to the easy access to geothermal and hydroelectric power there. Probably the most fascinating and disturbing part of my research for this video was looking at how happy each island was. While it's always challenging to measure the happiness of a large group of people, I found out that Greenland has had the world's highest suicide rate for decades. This, despite the fact that the World Happiness Report lists Denmark, a country Greenland is still technically part of, as the 2nd happiest country in the world. The 3rd happiest country according to that list? Iceland.